What a man experiences when he witnesses that your self-respect is more powerful than your feelings for him is not a beautiful or soft moment. It is an event that shakes his ego in that specific second. He does not just lose your warmth, he loses his dominant status. This content does not exist to offer you simple comfort or to falsely boost your mood. It serves to reveal the exact mental process that triggers when he realizes he can no longer possess you at any price. When that shift occurs, the connection is never the same for either person. You are about to explore the 6 real mental stages his mind goes through when your dignity takes control, moving from his first moment of confusion to the final reversal of power. If you stop listening before the conclusion, you will miss the most critical and important part. This is the part that separates a woman who falls back into old habits from the woman who will never be disrespected again. This is not just another video, it is the truth you need to hear if you want to stop losing yourself in the name of love. The psychologist Carl Jung said that no one truly meets another person without first facing their own inner shadow. That is exactly what is happening here. Your self-respect forces him to look at the parts of himself he has been running from. If this is speaking to you, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. When you hear this at the right time, it doesn't just change your mood, it changes the internal structure of how you love. The first step begins the moment he realizes you are no longer open for negotiation. Listen closely because a very common fantasy is about to break. A man does not realize he is losing you when you physically walk away. He realizes it when he can no longer influence your internal emotions. It isn't about a specific sentence or a rule you state. It is a quiet change in your internal position. He feels this shift long before he can explain it. Consider the story of a woman named Crystal. She was deep, loving, and loyal. She didn't chase or beg, so outsiders thought she had high self-respect. However, on the inside, she was constantly negotiating with her own values. She was making excuses for his absence and tolerating small lies just to keep things peaceful. One day, something shifted deep inside her heart. For years, she had confused being patient with being mature. She thought that giving in was the same as caring. Without knowing it, she taught him that her boundaries could always be pushed. But then she stopped explaining herself. She didn't scream or leave. She simply stopped betraying her own values in small ways. This invisible change reorders everything. When you return to your own center, your energy stops pleading for him to stay. He feels an immediate loss of access to your inner world. His first reaction isn't fear, it is deep discomfort. He doesn't know why, but your silence feels different. Your boundaries no longer feel like a defense, they feel like a solid fact. This forces him to stop ignoring you and start looking at where he stands. When a woman stops being negotiable, a man faces a new reality. He doesn't think he is losing her yet. He thinks he is losing his comfortable position of power. This change happens when you make 3 inner moves. You stop staying in places that make your body feel tight and small. You stop explaining yourself to someone who is not prepared to listen. You start making choices that respect your own needs, even if he does not like them. When you do this, you aren't being mean. You are being clear. Clarity is very unsettling for someone who was comfortable with your confusion. The man begins to watch his words and his timing because he can no longer count on your endless flexibility. This is the start of real respect. Many women think dignity is about being hard or cold, but it is actually about being consistent. Crystal didn't become distant, she became whole. This made him wonder where he fit in her life. Now you are no longer just reacting to him, you are simply present. You aren't chasing, you are choosing. This takes away his ability to use you for convenience. Once your heart learns it doesn't have to hurt to love, it cannot go back to the old way. He knows he can no longer rely on your weakness, and that forces him to either grow up or leave. Both outcomes come from you returning to yourself. You don't have to leave the room to stop being negotiable. You just have to come back to your own sense of self. When you do this, the bond is no longer held together by your effort alone. The second step is why your dignity creates more respect than all the love you ever gave. It's hard to hear, but love without structure just becomes part of the scenery. What truly changes a man's mind is the strength you show while loving him. When you love without losing yourself, he can't treat you like a habit anymore. Giving more love does not create more commitment. It often just creates a routine that stops meaning much. Dignity introduces a new reality. Jung explained that the mind only respects things that have clear shapes and edges. When you have boundaries, he feels there is a line he cannot cross without changing himself. He begins to compare the woman you are now to the version of you that used to wait and hope. Before, your love was a sure thing. Now his access to you is a privilege. He starts to ask himself if he is willing to improve or if he is going to lose his place by your side. This isn't a game or a trick. Manipulation is about changing him. Dignity is about staying true to yourself. Your energy stops demanding attention because you are already giving it to yourself. In counseling, men often say they feel their partner is different and that things used to be easier. But easy isn't love. Easy is just access without any cost. This is where many women fail. When he starts to pay more attention because he is worried, the temptation to go back to the old way is very strong. But if you use dignity as a trick, it will fail. It has to be who you are. This is the moment where the relationship stops being a fantasy and becomes a real choice. Your dignity doesn't promise he will stay, but it promises you won't lose yourself. Surprisingly, that is what makes the biggest impact. You are no longer the one being judged. He is the one who has to see if he can meet your new standard. This respect isn't built on being a victim. It's built on staying calm and clear. When you stop acting out of hurt, he can't play games with you anymore. Dignity leaves a mark that is never erased. You become a standard for him, not just a memory. Some men grow from this and others walk away. Either way, you are no longer trading yourself to keep a man. The third step is when his respect turns into a quiet fear. It isn't the fear a child feels. It is the fear of an adult who realizes he might not be good enough for you. He wants to be close, but he is afraid to show his flaws. He might send confusing messages or act hot and cold. He is testing to see if you are still there. But when he sees you aren't chasing him for answers, his worry grows. He can no longer manage his own mood by using your emotions. He is meeting his true self without any masks, and many men find that very difficult. Don't mistake his sudden intensity for true love. Sometimes it is just a man trying to get control back. Your job is to stay still. When you don't rush to fill the silence, he has to face his own emptiness. Your dignity reveals the truth of the relationship. Love that comes from respect looks for consistency, while love that comes from fear just looks for proof. By staying in your center, you filter out the men who aren't ready. He is now the one watching the clock and worrying about what he says. He no longer owns your heart. He has to earn his way back into it. This independence is what makes you valuable in his eyes. This is a delicate time for you. When he looks confused or sad, you will want to go back to your old role as the healer or the helper. If you do that, the cycle starts all over again. If you stay firm, a new dynamic begins. You aren't being mean, you are being consistent. This consistency forces him to take a side. He will either step up and become a better man, or he will fade away. Dignity does not lower itself for anyone. You don't have to threaten him, you just have to refuse to lower yourself. This saves you years of wasted time. It shows you who can actually meet you at your level. The fourth step is the moment he understands there is no going back. The woman who used to bend over backward is gone. He might feel a sense of grief, not for you, but for the easy life he used to have. You no longer carry his weight for him. If he stays, he will look at you with real respect. He will start to take responsibility because he knows he can't keep you if he stays the same. You are no longer just his safe place. You are a person he must respect. If he chooses to leave, the ending will be different this time. There is no big drama or begging. You don't chase him for a reason. This leaves a permanent mark on him. He will always remember the woman who didn't give herself away for love. You might wonder if you were too tough, but you were simply being true to yourself. Love that only works when you are small is not real love. The fifth step is when you make this self-respect your permanent identity. You are no longer reacting to a breakup. You are living your life. Your yes has meaning and your no is final. You don't need to prove anything because you already know who you are. This makes you magnetic. People who can't handle your strength will leave quietly, and that's okay. You stop falling for empty promises because your heart now recognizes the difference between real effort and just acting interested. You have stopped breaking yourself into pieces to make others happy. You no longer need someone to choose you to feel worthy. You have already chosen yourself. The final step is when your entire world changes from the inside out. You aren't acting out of fear or old wounds anymore. You ask if a relationship honors you, not if you are good enough for it. Your body finally learns that love doesn't have to be a struggle. You don't need to explain your boundaries because you simply live them. A man never forgets a woman like this because she is whole. She didn't betray herself to be loved. You have broken the cycle of repeating the same mistakes. Your dignity is not a wall to keep people out. It is a light that shows people how to treat you. It filters out the wrong people and lets in those who are ready for something real. You no longer look back with sadness, but with understanding. You understand why you were unsure before, and you know why you can never be that way again. You are not trying to complete yourself through a man anymore. You are sharing your life from a place of already being full. This kind of love lasts. You don't need to convince anyone to stay. Your presence says everything. Always remember, you are the standard that teaches others how to love with honesty. What happens when the reversal is complete and your dignity is no longer a defense, but your permanent state? This is the moment where the power shift becomes lasting. When a man realizes he cannot negotiate your presence, his mind moves from shock into a long-term reorganizing of how he sees you and himself. As you move into this next phase, you will notice that he begins to watch your new normal. He is looking for cracks in your armor. He expects that eventually you will go back to the version of you that used to explain everything. But when you don't, he hits a mental wall. This wall is where he must decide if he is a man capable of meeting a woman of high value, or if he is someone who can only thrive when a woman is emotionally dependent on him. Your silence and your choice to stay in your own center act as a mirror. For the first time, he isn't looking at your needs. He is looking at his own lack of effort. This is where real change happens. If he stays, it is because he has found a reason to grow. If he leaves, it is because he realizes he cannot afford the cost of a woman who respects herself. In both cases, you win because you are no longer a victim of his inconsistency. You are now living in a state of internal order. This order is what prevents the old patterns from returning. You no longer have to think about being dignified. You simply are. This is the ultimate goal, a love that is shared by choice, protected by boundaries, and sustained by mutual respect rather than emotional manipulation. As you move deeper into this next phase, you will notice that he begins to watch your new way of life closely. He is looking for a weak spot. He expects that eventually you will go back to the version of you that used to explain every little thing. But when you stay firm, he hits a mental wall. This wall is where he must decide if he is a man capable of meeting a woman of high value, or if he is someone who can only exist when a woman is emotionally dependent on him. Your silence and your choice to stay in your own center act as a mirror for him. For the first time, he isn't looking at your needs. He is forced to look at his own lack of effort. This is where the most honest change happens. If he stays, it is because he has found a reason to grow up. If he leaves, it is because he realizes he cannot afford the cost of a woman who truly values herself. In both cases, you win because you are no longer a victim of his mood swings or inconsistency. You are now living in a state of internal order. This order is what prevents the old, painful patterns from returning. You no longer have to think about being strong. You simply are strong. This is the ultimate goal of the journey, a love that is shared by choice, protected by clear boundaries, and kept alive by mutual respect rather than fear of being alone. The final change happens when you realize that your dignity didn't just change him, it changed the very atmosphere around you. You no longer attract people who want to use your kindness as a doormat. You become a person who radiates a quiet strength that doesn't need to shout to be heard. You have moved from a place of hoping to be loved to a place of knowing you are worthy. When you reach this point, the past no longer has a grip on you. You can look at the man who once made you feel small and feel nothing but a calm understanding of the lesson he taught you. You have moved past self-betrayal and into a life of self-respect. This is the end of the old story and the beginning of a life where you are the author of your own happiness. When you reach this final stage, the man will often try one last set of tests to see if your new dignity is real or just a temporary act. He might bring up beautiful moments from the past to see if your feelings will soften and make you forget your boundaries. He might also show a sudden, intense sadness to pull you back into your old role as his emotional caretaker. These are not always conscious plans, but they are the natural reactions of a mind trying to regain a lost sense of control. If you stay centered during these tests, something rare happens in his mind, genuine respect. He realizes that you have moved into a level of maturity that he cannot manipulate. At this point, the dynamic is no longer about who has more power. It is about the truth of the connection. If he is capable of real change, he will stop testing you and start respecting you. He will realize that to be with you, he must bring his best self to the table every single day. If he is not capable of that growth, your dignity will act as a natural boundary that keeps him from wasting any more of your time. Your internal structure is now so solid that his actions no longer determine your mood. You have stopped reacting to his behavior and have become a steady presence in your own life. This is the moment of true freedom. You no longer wait for his text to feel happy, and you no longer fear his silence. Your happiness is now generated from within, based on the fact that you have stopped betraying yourself. You have learned that the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. This change is lasting because it is based on a new understanding of love. You now know that love without respect is just a form of hidden pain. You have traded the highs and lows of a chaotic relationship for the steady calm of self-respect. When you move through the world from this place, you move with a quiet elegance. You don't need to argue about your value because you embody it. You have become a woman who is not only hard to lose but impossible to forget because you showed him what it looks like when a person chooses their own well-being over a toxic attachment. From this day forward, you are the one who sets the tone. You are the one who decides who is worthy of your time. You have transformed from the one who was waiting into the one who is choosing. This is the end of the old pattern of loss and the beginning of a journey toward a love that is finally equal, honest, and whole. The final realization happens when you understand that your dignity is not a wall that keeps love out, but a filter that only lets the right kind of love in. A man who sees you in this state faces the ultimate truth about his own character. If he chooses to step up, he does so knowing that he can never go back to being lazy or inconsistent. He understands that your presence is a gift that must be protected, not something he is owed. If he chooses to leave, he does so with the heavy knowledge that he lost something rare because he was too small to value it. Your life now enters a phase of real honesty. You no longer have the energy for maybe or we'll see. You expect directness because you are direct with yourself. This clarity acts as a protective shield around your heart. When a person enters your life and tries to use the old tactics of guilt or mixed signals, your system rejects them instantly. You don't have to fight them off. You simply don't match their energy anymore.